Jordan Thompson sends a long stretch pass, hits Owen Iron in stride. He comes in and he tucks it home on the backhand to get another for the Navy Vets.
There was a ton of goals, a few fights, and a double-digit win on Friday night. The Navy Vets beating Hespeler en route to a perfect weekend. Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of the Anchortown Report. My name is Darren Stevenson. I'm your host, as well as the executive producer of 519 Sports Online. How quickly things can change in the Doherty Division. On this program 10 days ago, we were talking about how the Navy Vets were in a bit of a funk, and now they have climbed the standings with 3 straight victories. As you saw on Friday night, it was a win over the Hespeler Shamrocks. The final score at Southwood was 10-0. A real dominating performance for the Navy Vets and a real confidence booster. Then on Saturday, they went to Dorchester and a comeback win in the third period. Dalen Fosick and Charlie Barnes scoring goals in the final 20 minutes as the Navy Vets picked up a 3-2 victory over the Dorchester Dolphins. Woodstock has now won 3 straight games and they have climbed up the Doherty Division standings into 4th place. This weekend, they will once again face the Dolphins and the Shamrocks. We'll have more on the schedule coming up a little bit later in the show. So what have been the reasons for this resurgence, this turnaround as we hit about the quarter point of the season? Woodstock in a much better position now than they were just over a week ago. Here is our conversation with Navy Vets assistant coach, Chris Nauts.
Yeah, I think just buying in a little bit more. We've only caught fire twice so far this year, I would say. That first home opener there against Wellesley in the third period, and then again in the second half of the Norwich game there. It's just not cheating the game. I think you're starting to see it click a little bit more as we go along, that, you got to take care of your own end first, and the offense will come.
The ebbs and flows of the hockey season. We talk about it all the time, right? There's peaks and there's valleys. How do you keep these guys' mindset positive? Obviously, 10 days ago, things weren't great. There was some lows, but you got to pick them back up. Is it the fact that they have a quick memory, or as a coaching staff, how do you kind of make that adjustment? Because now you're feeling like you're on top of the mountain.
Yeah. I think it's more so just not changing your mentality, just as much as it is, it was a negative week there for sure, right? That definitely wasn't the funnest, but you knew it was going to turn for us. I think that's the biggest thing. We've got the skill, we've got the guys in the room to do it. It just was everybody clicking on the same page. I give these kids credit too. They've only been together for a couple of weeks here. This is a complete rebuild of the roster that we've gone through, and we're kind of teaching a different style as well that some of these kids have played that have been here on the team the last couple of years. Right, we want to make sure we're putting ourselves in a good position the entire time. So no matter what, we knew it was going to flip around and change for us. It was just eventually when was it going to happen, and hopefully it seems like here now we've turned that corner.
What is that different style? You touched on it there. What are some of the adjustments, or did you make a lot of changes after that losing streak, or did you just say to yourself as a coaching staff, we're going to figure this out? These kids are good hockey players. Everybody knows that, and we are going to bounce back. Or were there small tweaks, adjustments that you made to try and find that maybe a little bit of chemistry, things like that?
Yeah. The chemistry thing will sort itself out for sure. I mean, for us, the style of hockey that we're trying to play this year is mainly just making sure that we're never putting ourselves in a bad position. Right. We're not trying to, try to gamble too much out there. We want to make sure that, 5 guys are all on the same page of where are we going with it, especially when things aren't going right. And I think that's something that maybe gets lost a little bit at this level of junior is, everyone expects everything to happen so clean and so crisp. It doesn't always happen like that. So making sure we've got 5 guys on the same game plan of what's going to happen when that does inevitably happen. The open stuff will happen. The skill will take over when the game's open and flowing for these guys. And that's what you see a lot happen when we do flip it on is the game opens up because we're playing the proper way.
And the Woodstock crew, let's call them the Woodstock crew, they seem to be making a difference right now and a huge impact. And it's great when you see the local kids making a huge difference on the ice. Jordan Thompson, Gavin Birmingham, Nolan Breck, Connor Stanley. Can you touch on those kids a little bit and just how they've contributed to the recent success?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we definitely came in this year with a team that's mainly built of a lot of guys from out of town, but we have just as much local guys as well too, right? Like you said, Gavin Birmingham plays both forward and defense for us. That's unheard of, really, right? Guys that can do it at that level, going back and forth, that's huge for us. Nolan Brett, I think, has taken a huge stride this year. He's going to have the offense. The goals are going to come. I think it's just more for him this year has just been his botting to the defensive side of the puck has been incredible. He's a guy that you trust in any moment of the game. game. And I know, having Chris Jensen and Elms up there for the forwards there, they love putting him out there in those situations because he's working his tail off to succeed in those. Connor Stanley, his motor will never stop going. that kid's legs, I don't think, stop even standing on the bench. So he'll always put himself in position just by his legs and his compete level. It'll always happen for him just because no matter what, a bounce will go his way because he's always working the right way. And then as well to Jordan Thompson, I can say enough good things about how he's been for us this year. Definitely as a leader as well in the room too. Just more so of the strides that his game has taken this way. I talked to him in the summer, even a little bit. He is kind of like, I'm going to be that shutdown physicality kind of guy, whatnot. And I just kind of was in my head going, there's so much more to Jordan's game that nailing yourself in a square peg there, there's no need for it, right? And seeing him move the puck so smartly coming on here and really, I think maybe making sure that we're not stretching too far for the defenseman has been a big thing for us too. But Jordan's making great plays offensively and defensively, and I think you see it in his point total so far this year too.
Is that maturity and confidence just for a kid that's been in the league now for a number of years? Obviously, he's got the C on his chest, which also gives him a little bit of that confidence too in his second year now. But those conversations this summer, I think that's interesting because clearly he came into the season saying to himself, I want to be a step above this year, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you've seen, Chris?
Yeah. I would say it's a confidence thing for sure too. I haven't once heard out of his mouth that I'm not going to do it offensively this year for us, right? He's got that fire in his eyes this year. A lot of those 21-year-old guys do, right? I think they recognize the opportunity that we have here this year with the roster and the quality of guys in there. And I mean, 21 looking down the barrel at the end of your junior hockey career, it can suck. So to know that you have a chance to win, I think is probably the most invigorating thing that they can have this year. And you're slowly starting to see those guys take over as leaders too.
How does the division shape up? You were in eighth. I'll put it that way. You were down in eighth, tied near the bottom, and now you guys are in fourth. And that's the time of year too, right? You're going to bounce around. You win three, you lose two until there's a little bit of separation between the teams. But I think the vibe that a lot of people are getting, Chris, is that there isn't going to be a ton of separation this year because the division is so competitive, which makes every point, and I know we're talking about this in October, but every point seems like it's going to be really important because we don't know what it's going to look like at the end when we get down to the final weeks of the season. How do you size it up? Wellesley's in first right now. They've looked phenomenal. You guys have jumped up. There's lots of good hockey here.
Yeah, that's one of the things that as a coaching staff I've been talking about a lot. I think the worst thing for any team going through a season is you have half of a standings wise that you can kind of take your night off, and then you got that you got to go against. Like you said, there's not too many nights at all that you can take, right? So it's perfect for I think every team in this division once playoffs start and once everything kind of gets kicking off there towards the end of February, is everybody will be battle tested and ready, and I think this division especially will give you the best kind of first round atmosphere, that's for sure.
So you win in Dorchester last Saturday night, close hockey game, 3-2. You had a goal late in the third period. What did you learn last Saturday night there for the return matchup, which is this Friday night at Southwood?
Yeah, Dorchester's another prime example of they'll skate and they'll work hard. They're a physical team as well too. They won't let you cheat. So for us, it's going to be the same thing again. You're right, keeping narrowing it down. Is there's only one way you're going to succeed in this division, and that's by playing the game the right way.
And then on Sunday, I think the Hespeler Shamrocks are going to be mad because they did lose 10-0 in your arena last Friday night. And that's not who the Hespeler Shamrocks are. Clearly, they had an off night. You guys had a great night. Sometimes that happens with junior hockey where the tidal wave kind of starts and that's the way that it goes. What are you expecting on Sunday when you go there? I believe it's your first trip to Hespeler Memorial Arena this year.
Yeah, I expect to have their best. That's for sure. Like you said, that'll leave a sting. Right, especially when you let that many goals in, no matter what level, right? That stuff sticks with you a little bit longer than the rest of them. So I definitely expect their best, and for us just come back out and give it our all again.
Last one I want to touch on is the Pink in the Rink event was last Friday night, and it's obviously Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Cancer Awareness Month. I think Woodstock does an amazing job, like many teams, like all teams in the Doherty and across hockey, giving back and making a difference. Hockey fights cancer, hockey fights back is something I've seen that's really, I don't want to say gain traction, but I think it's become really important to teams, and they understand the value that they hold in the community when it comes to making a difference. So what do you think of events like that, and how important is it to the Woodstock organization to make sure that you are a good community partner, Chris, and that you're doing things the right way?
Yeah, I think that's everything, really, right? Without the community and without the fans, this stuff doesn't happen, right? Woodstock's been fortunate enough to have been having a team here since the late '60s, right, all the way up through. It's an incredible organization, right? You don't get to, have the ties that you have within a community like that without doing stuff like that and giving back. And I think it's, always will be a no-brainer for anyone involved to get around with that stuff.
Certainly a ton of positives to the Navy vets right now, and our thanks to assistant coach Chris Nauts for joining us here on this week's episode of the Anchortown Report. Let's take a look at the up-to-date Doherty Division standings heading into this weekend's action. The Wellesley Applejacks alone in first place. They have 14 points. The Tavistock Braves having a great start to the season. They are in second. Norwich and Woodstock third and fourth with 9 points. Paris Titans, they're playing really well lately. The New Hamburg Firebirds in sixth, the Dorchester Dolphins and the Hespeler Shamrocks in seventh and eighth respectively. And those will be the Navy Vets' two opponents this coming weekend, the Dolphins as well as the Shamrocks. As we take a look at the Navy Vets' upcoming games, the upcoming schedule, Friday night, Woodstock is back at Southwood for a matchup with the Dolphins. 7:45 puck drop, the return engagement from last Saturday's 3-2 win for the Navy Vets in Dorchester. Then on Sunday, the Navy Vets hit the road for a matchup with the Shamrocks. It will be a matinee game that will be 3:30 at the Hespeler Memorial Arena. And also a couple of other big Doherty Division games coming up this weekend. The Tavistock Braves are on the road Friday night in New Hamburg. That'll be a rematch of that outstanding first round playoff series last year between the Braves and the Firebirds. It was New Hamburg who prevailed in that series in 7 games, so it should be a dandy on Friday night at the Wilmot Rec Complex. Then on Saturday night, it'll be the battle right now anyways between the top two teams in the division. Tavistock goes to Wellesley. That'll be a 7:30 puck drop at the Bill Geese Recreation Center. And if you can believe this, the New Hamburg Firebirds and Norwich Merchants on Saturday night will meet for the third time this season, so they're really familiar with each other early on in this season. That will be New Hamburg at Norwich. That should be a great game on Saturday night. The second time the Firebirds have traveled to Norwich and Nordell Arena so far this season. And of course, we always encourage you to get out to the rink, support your local junior hockey team in the Doherty Division. Great action, lots of fun, always lots going on in these great games. As you saw last weekend at Southwood, a great game on Friday night with a lot going on. And certainly this should be another great weekend. It is Thanksgiving weekend, so we want to take a moment to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the hockey, enjoy the turkey. We will see you next time on the Anchortown Report.